go. All right. Welcome, everybody, back to another WineShark Wednesday. It is I, your host, WineShark. Hope you guys are doing well, having a wonderful post-Labor Day week, a short week, a 4-day week. And as you know, everybody deserves some of that some of the time. Although my weeks get all weird and wonky with the way that I work on weekends and then Wednesdays and then not Wednesdays. And anyway, it's been a wonderful, relaxing thing. Got to spend some time with family. Got to enjoy some fun wines. Had some excellent food and excellent wine. So can't complain about my weekend at all. I hope you guys had an equally happy holiday. But yeah, so we're into September now. I mean, yeah, because that snuck up on us. Hello to Ms. Donna. See her waving in the chat down there. Yeah, September snuck up on me. I don't know. The year's been going by in all kinds of weird ways. I tend to think, the middle of the month is the slippery part where I never notice anything. But we are here to talk today a little bit about some wine names and a wine by any other name. We're going to talk about some Mourvèdre, Mataro, and Monastrell, or specifically those three styles of grapes draw the same grape from different regions. We're talking a little about wine. Wines have different names in different places, just out of tradition. But mostly we're going to talk about what this grape is like, why you should embrace and enjoy it. Definitely not one of the common ones you're going to see by a monovarietal, which is what caught my attention about the Cline Ancient Vines Mourvèdre from Contra Costa County. So this is actually inspired by the grocery store grab. So we're going to try some Mourvèdre for the grocery store grab as well. So if you guys have an opportunity to go pick one up, it'd be a great time to join in and then come rewatch the video. So let's talk a little bit about what is Mourvèdre, Mataro, Monastrell, or one of any of these funky grape names. So which one is it? Well, the answer of this is a type, this is the name of a varietal of grape. A red grape, black grape rather, black skinned grape makes red wine, although they do also make rosé with it. We'll talk about that in a little while. But it goes by many names. The M is the one thing that it has in common that makes it, I think, kind of both popular. Not only is it popular from a production and regional standpoint, but it is easy to remember for a lot of people. The name that you'll hear most of the time, the officially accepted name is Mourvèdre. That is the French pronunciation of the originally Spanish grape. The Spanish go by Monastrell, and then you'll also see it called Mataro in the New World. All three of these mean the same type of grape, and this is a great case where you're going to see not just these three names, but there are many, many, many names. And this applies throughout a lot of the wine world, where you'll get a particular grape that is known by a lot of other names, especially ones that were more ancient in their total history, have migrated around a lot, have been grown by a lot of different cultures in their particular cultural space, and then given something that is a local nickname. For instance, Bandol in France also calls Mourvèdre, Mataro, Monastrell, they also call it Bandol. In Spain, they also call it Alicante. Okay, so there are definitely other names that are very popular of this same grape, and it can be confusing for a lot of new wine drinkers to see all these different names and not have the through line that these are all actually the exact same grape. There are actually 95 other names for this grape that I when I was doing the research for this that are available that are known by worldwide. Some of which include Damas Noir, Pinot Fleuri, Torrentes, Monastre, Mourvèdre. All of these are all meaning the exact same thing, and like I said, they're local concepts of the same grape. So you have to think back to a time where, the when you didn't get out, travel as a viticultural person or as a winemaker, or even just as a citizen making your own wine, you may not travel to other countries to see how they're making their wine. International wine scene and not yet to exist. So that's the whole idea that they don't know that they're growing the same thing, but they just call it what they call it, is really just a classic thing of prehistory in the not prehistory, but in the earlier history of wine world. Certainly we're talking about, before the Roman era, generally speaking. Although that spread of the grapes during that period is a lot of what got European wine names their names. So, well, and then hello to Mark and Betty. So, but Betty says she's on her way to Dallas. Well, good deal. I mean, I hope she's enjoying a glass on the plane. But so this grape is pretty well spread throughout the world. Most of the grapes of this name, Monastrell, are grown in Spain. That's probably where the greatest acreage, I believe, is grown. Second up is France, and France again has the name kind of popularized as Mourvèdre. You'll often hear the grape in France used as part of a trio, specifically the Rhone Valley area, which grows Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre, GSM. The M in that, of course, comes from the Mourvèdre grape, and it was popularized there as one of the three grapes that they tend to blend with, and very popular throughout the world, including because of the Rhone, including the United States, South Africa, also in Australia. They've a lot of winemakers, especially in the 18th, 19th, early 19th centuries, were imitating the wines of the Rhone Valley. And in the 1980s, there was a group of winemakers. They were nicknamed the Rhone Rangers in California, who really popularized the style there too. Although the styles of grapes, those Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre style grapes, and Carignan, etc., never really eclipsed some of the bigger, broader plantings that you're going to see from what they call the Bordeaux varietals. This is the Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cab Franc family. So this wine does have broad reach, so in many different areas, and with that comes a lot of winemaking stylistic differences. As we've talked about with other grapes, growing a grape in a different place not only has different viticultural considerations, but oftentimes comes with stylistic choices that the winemakers make and how they particularly design their wines. But from their perspective, from the winemaker's perspective, what is cool about 3M? First things first, it is a warm weather tolerant grape. So most of those places that I just mentioned, where I'm talking about growing it, are in the warmer regions of those particular countries. Okay, so we're talking about the southwest of Spain. We're talking about the south of France. We're talking about the west coast and then the central west coast of California. We're talking about the area on the the far southern coast, McLaren Vale area for Australia. All of those areas, including South Africa, has a little bit of sprinkling here and there that I've seen. Again, warmer climate. So because of that warmer climate, it also is a grape that ripens late and buds late, which can be an advantage if you're trying to do things like avoiding frost. Now, the grape is said to be a little bit temperature sensitive throughout its growth cycle, so it can be a little temperamental as far as that's concerned, especially during its dormancy over winter. It can effectively wake up too early. But when it does ripen and it does produce fruit, the fruit that it produces are tightly clustered, small berries with relatively thick skins. What that means is the tight clustering, that comes with its own challenge, meaning they need to have a good degree of natural wind to prevent mildew problems. Mildew often happens when you get wet climate conditions and not a lot of sunlight with berries that are very close because they never truly dry, which allows bad conditions to grow. And powdery mildew and other types of vine pests can exist, and that causes problems with the grapes. But small fruit and thick skins, by having that ratio of lower flesh to skin ratio and the skins being thick in nature, gives them a lot of high phenolic compounds. Basically, read that as big tannins, lots of color, and lots of flavor. So this grape, when you can get it to grow and do well, it brings a lot to the table when it comes to coloration and flavor sensations. Because it's a warm weather varietal, the way that the vine tends to grow, it tends to grow a very lush canopy, lots of leaves. These are protection from the sun in its natural warm weather, habitat. Now, that gives vineyard managers a lot of options on how they can grow this. A lot of ways that they can, what they call train the vine. They can keep those little, the leaves effectively are little umbrellas, little parasols that help protect the grapes from getting overly ripe or burned by the sun. So, although in America and Australia, sometimes you'll actually see these, especially the older ones from America, which, by the way, we're going to dip into these quote-unquote ancient vines from Cline. These older grapes are bush trained. Basically, what they do, they look like a bush. They have a big, thick stalk in the middle, and they kind of go out in all directions, and there's this big mass of leaves with grape clusters intermingled in between. I've even seen some Australian popularize the name bush vine Grenache or bush vine Mourvèdre. The way that they've grown some of these styles of grapes down there have that style of training. So big, wild, fun, hot weather tolerant grape. So then lastly, it comes to, well, what's it taste like? Well, we're talking about Big, classic big dark fruit flavors here. Blue and black fruits, specifically blackberries, blueberries, black plums, are the primary things you're going to get out of the end product of the wine. They have are known for a high degree of rotendones, which are that cracked pepper flavor. Sometimes even with even a dried meat or dried game kind of thing going on, a meaty or gamey sensation. And then some types of flowers, you tend to get roses or violets, crushed gravel, things like that are the typical flavors you're going to get out of this wine. So it is assertive. It's got a very dominant flavor profile. Most of the flavors we're talking about are not delicate. They're not subtle. It is a very direct and very what's the word I'm looking for there? It is an unsubtle wine. We're going to go for the opposite word of subtle. Anyway, but like I said, we talked about having high tannins because of thick skins. So it also tends to get, because of its ripeness and its warm weather, it also tends towards medium and high alcohol levels. Although acidity remains squarely in the medium category. Not a big sharp red, so this isn't like your Barberas or your Gamay. This is much more akin in acidity, closer to Merlots and Cabs, things like that. Usually, because it's a red wine and it's an old world red, it's very oftentimes seeing oak aging. It is, as I said, frequently blended when it comes to the GSM trio. Although elsewhere in the world, including its dominant place in Spain, it is oftentimes served as a monovarietal. Here in the U.S., also, Texas is becoming a bigger fan of this varietal. Again, warm weather should cue friendliness here in Texas, as most of our growth here definitely occur in that category. Although we are still pretty small as far as overall worldwide production is concerned, but some of the winemakers that I really enjoy here in Texas have been really interested in this grape and are starting to plant it more and more. So I think the 2020 report that I looked up, there was something like 190 acres, but I believe that has almost doubled in the last 2 years. Now, the weird thing is the difference between acreage and production tons, but that's complicated viticulture we're not going to talk about right now. Anyway, the other fun thing to remember is Mourvèdre, Mataro, and Monastrell are oftentimes used as a base for rosé wines in those same warm weather areas. We've been talking about rosé all summer, and especially been reminding us of how European rosés are made and used in those hot weather countries. This is a great place to start, and it is used in both the limited skin contact, fresh press method, and used in Saignée method, where they bleed off a little bit to turn into rosé, and then just concentrate the red wine even more. So Mark had a comment: champagne before taking off, at least what they called it. Oh, hey, well, champagne, good call. Get bubblies in before your flight, Mark. I appreciate that. Anyway, so that's Mourvèdre, Mataro, Monastrell, Damas Noir, or whatever you'd like to call it. My important thing is to exercise to people to say, this is a wine you should be seeking out and trying out. If you like medium to heavyweight reds and you want to try something new, this is a part where a lot of people that are new to wine should definitely start to look, because it isn't going to taste like your Merlots and its closest cousin that you're going to taste, that's going to find it in the same family, is that Syrah group. Okay, it's very similar to that, although I find that Monastrell is even more. Mourvèdre is even richer. It's got more earthiness to it and more of that gamey, meaty thing, whereas Syrah has more of a plush, velvety thing. We're already doing well with that. All right, so it's time for a wine quiz. Let's talk about what we got here. So, Wine Wars. We've been messing around with this for some time now. And this is basically a trivia game featuring 5 different wine categories. Our categories are Vine to Vino, which is about growing grapes, making wine, and world wine production. We have the Graposphere, which is about grape varieties, their wines, and their geography. We've got Wine Cellar, which is about storing, selecting, and tasting wine. We've got Wine and Food, which is about cooking with wine, cooking and serving wine pairings, and wine service. And then Cork Culture, which is about wine people, businesses, arts, sciences, and trivia. So, let's find out whether we can stump the chump today, whether yours truly will be. I didn't do so hot last week. Had some off questions, so I'm definitely on the down streak. So here we go. What's question 1? What is the term for transferring wine off the lees or from one container to another? What is the term for transferring wine off the lees from one container to another. Okay? So lees, right? That's another fun wine word. The remainders of yeast cells and dead things that fall to the bottom, also referred to in the skins and the floating contents in the cap. All those lees. So when you siphon that off, or take it from one tank to another, what is that called? Our hint here, when they're doing this process, the wines have already been moved into cask, generally speaking, and those casks sit in all these big, tall racks. The term is racking. And so you take that wine and you move it from one barrel to another. In that process, you're leaving sedimentation and lees behind, clarifying the wine. You're also aerating the wine and helping it during that aging process while you put it into its new barrels. Yeah, no explanation on this one. They just say it's right. It is racking. All right. True or false? Gewürztraminer is a specialty grape of Alsace where it is grown almost exclusively. Gewürztraminer is a specialty grape of Alsace where it is grown almost exclusively. This one I believe, has a date problem on it. Because being so far as to say true or false, I can see this going either way. So first, we have to know about the grape Gewürztraminer. All right, Gewürztraminer is the spicy grape from Traminer. It's the German-French border of Alsace-Lorraine. Is definitely where it is popularized. However, the grape originated in Traminer, which is in Italy, and they do grow some there. And they grow some in a lot of other places too. They grow some in Germany. They grow some in California. They grow some in New York State. They grow some. I haven't heard much anywhere else, and not to any real market degree. But it's very black and white for them to say that that's only the almost exclusively grown there, because Alsace also produces Pinot Noir, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris. So I'm going to go ahead and say false, because true is just too much. It's just too much. All right, so they agree with us. They say false too. It's grown worldwide, notably in New Zealand's East Coast. See, New Zealand making it. I have not had a New Zealand Gewürztraminer, so I'm off on that. Chile, British Columbia, Oregon, and Italy's Alto Adige region. Italy's Alto Adige region, by the way, is where it's from. All right, good catches. Next up, true or false? The smaller the wine bottle, the faster the aging effect. True or false? The smaller the wine bottle, the faster it ages. We had an interesting. Oh, sorry, I dropped the card here. We had an interesting question like that just the other day, where we talked about the size of the bottle affecting aging. So if you remember back to that question, you'll remember what this should be. It's also the reason that we don't, order champagne in splits. Although you don't order vintage champagne in splits, because vintage champagne in splits would be silly. So the answer is it's true. The ratio of air to wine changes with the bottle size and thereby varies with the speed of the aging process is the answer. So yeah, bigger bottles, you've got only a little bit of air to a whole lot of wine. It's much more controlled, and it's said to improve the aging. You don't want to age in very small bottles like 325s or 187s because they tend to go bad quicker. Okay. All right. Well, next question. What Italian fortified wine is traditionally used in making the dessert Zabaglione? What Italian fortified wine is traditionally used in making the dessert Zabaglione? Ooh. Don't know this one myself. I couldn't pull a Zabaglione out of a lineup. And I'm trying to think of, so therefore, what's the other basis we have? We have Italian fortified wines. I'm like, I know, we know about straw wines and things like Amarone, but those aren't fortified, as far as I know. So we're about to get, definitely, you have stumped moi. So, answer here. Oh, Marsala. Marsala's Italian. Duh. Come on, I should have known that. So Marsala wine is used to make Zabaglione. Now, by obligatory nature, I'm going to have to Google Zabaglione and see what the heck this stuff is. It says it's sometimes a beverage or Italian dessert beverage made with egg yolks, sugar, and a sweet wine. Alrighty there. It's like a light custard with, so it's basically a Marsala-based wine custard. Nice. Now you can identify as a Beglione in the wild. Anyway, all right, so we got that one wrong. No food answer for me. Now watch. Now I'm gonna have to incorporate this like into my fall fall wine recipes. Sounds pretty good. What's it called? Sabayon or Sabayon. But all right, last question. What carbon footprint reducing move did the mega parent company of Inglenook and Almaden Jug Wines announce in 2008? What carbon footprint reducing move did the mega parent company of Inglenook and Almaden Jug Wines announce in 2008? Okay, so what were they doing in 2008 that reduced their carbon footprint? I'm going to go ahead and bet that the answer here is they would no longer be jug wines, they would all be boxed wines. Almaden and Inglenook would be definitely in that category. So let's find out whether I'm right. Yep, bag and box containers, the wine group's packaging for its 3 and 4 liter glass jugs. So they got rid of big glass jugs and went to bags, bag and box. So. And that's a good thing. Now the thing is, if we could get something better than Almaden and Inglenook in those bags, you know that I'm a huge advocate for being boxed in wine, especially for those that only drink a glass or 2 at a time. It'd be great if we get more of that. Although in the fine wine world, we're seeing much more in the keg wine world for professional service. That's still not something that makes the home user any easier. So, all right. So what do we get? So we got 4 out of 5 today. Not so bad. Not so bad. I feel like, I know sometimes it looks like I know what I'm doing. But anyway, always fun. Check it out. So, okay, so let's talk about our actual Mourvèdre today. Our Cline Ancient Vines will go into the grocery store grab. So, if you've not seen the show before, the grocery store grab is our premise to get the best value per dollar at non-specialty and non-big box retailers. When you're at a grocery store, whether it's out of convenience or necessity and you're shopping for wine, chances are you're not going to have good wine staff on hand to give you advice. Therefore, you have to rely on your own wine knowledge. Specifically, we also look at the knowledge that can be gained from looking at wine's labels. Labeling should tell us information, not just be a simple marketing ploy, in my opinion. It can be both, but the back label of a wine bottle can tell us all kinds of cool stuff. And when it does, it really helps us know. So we want to know what's in the bottle. If it's a variety of wine and it's blended, we want to know what types of wines are blended together. Where the grape's grown, the more specific the better, and what does this wine taste like? We want flavor words that are common and easy to understand. If possible, we'd even like food pairings with nice specific food pairings if they're going to go ahead and do that. All right, so this week's Selezione, as I said before, is Ancient Vines, Cline's Mourvèdre from Ancient Vines. You'll see here it says Contra Costa County. So the Contra Costa County is an American viticultural area. Contra Costa, for our Spanish speakers, basically the against coast, right? The inside coast. This is across the bay from San Francisco. It's inside the San Francisco and San Pablo bays that it runs next to is Contra Costa County. It was a grape growing region back in California's earlier history, has since shrunk considerably. But many of the vines that they still have growing there are these what they're calling here ancient vines. So these old 100-year-old vines from basically back in the gold rush era. Really cool stuff that they have going on there that has been planted and remained and really preserved as a piece of viticultural history. So I not only chose this because I knew the name and the grape varietal was something that I wanted to talk about, but their label here is also pretty spot on. On the front, you see that they've got it's a very simplistic label, very more elegant style. But it does tell us the grape and tells us where it's from. We've then got on the back, it repeats that information, but says Fred Cline learned a love for farming from his grandfather in Contra Costa County. Originally, grapevines were planted there over 100 years ago. Fred restored these deep-rooted, dry-farmed, head-pruned vines that now form the backbone of our Ancient Vines collection. Our Ancient Vines Mourvèdre draws from some of our most historic old vines, resulting in fruit that has stunning concentration that delivers deep plum flavors with distinctive chocolate notes. Then underneath this, there's a iconography set. that basically shows that it is a green string certified, 100-plus-year-old vines, vegan friendly, gluten free, and using natural pest control. So they're not only using lifestyle marketing there in that area to attract users that are interested in those particular things. They're telling you a little bit about what ancient vine means to them. That's something you don't see sometimes when we talk about any of these old vine wines that I've seen from California. So very proper of them, I think, to not only be transparent with that. They could do a little bit better, I think, when it comes to their flavor words, but they did give us deep plum and distinctive chocolate, right? So at least that much. They're using words we can understand. They're telling us why ancient is awesome, and there's this whole deep thing, and they're telling us that they're also a sustainable, very modern wine production facility that's making sure that they're trying to take care of their grapes and take care of their land, which is definitely a good thing. Something else I just noticed on the front of this, behind the Mourvèdre, there's actually a 100 that is sitting right there, basically representing the age of the vines. Okay, so let's take a swirl here and see whether this answers our three questions. Is it on point? Is it well executed? Is it on style? And is it worth the price tag? Now again, California Mourvèdre, the fact that they're calling it such, is not a broad style. You're not going to find a lot of it by itself, but let's find out how where this kind of lies in there. On the nose, it's real rich. This is a 2018 bottle that I'm drinking. Okay, so I think the ones you're getting right now, I think are 2019, 2020, or elsewhere in the store. This is 2018, but it has definitely got a deep nose. It's almost got reminds me of black tea and dark fruit. It definitely has that that blueberry, blackberry, and kind of canned, not fresh, very concentrated. It sounds very intense. And then, and I can easily see that same thing like plum jam, right? Is on the nose. It's got a deep, dark flavor. It doesn't have. There's a little hint of that cocoa powder, maybe. I don't know if this is one of those ones. Am I reading into that because of the labeling? Because I don't take it as soil. I'm not smelling that gravel. I'm not smelling any floral notes that I would expect based on the grape varietal descriptions you're going to get. But on palate, all right, nice side palate attack. The tannins on this are very well integrated. It's not overt. It's not just hammering you with tannin and drying your palate out. But it's all across the sides of my mouth, and my mid palate is really where I feel it. There's not a lot up at the front. There's a very hint of it, a tiny hint of what little acidity there is, but really it's right in my cheeks. And there's this nice punch of that cocoa powder and blueberry. It tastes almost like a chocolate truffle. Right, deep dark chocolate truffle with a dark berry center, and then across the middle of my tongue, you get that velvety kind of tannin coming through. It balances out, and then it just really kind of has a nice medium to, I don't know, even medium plus finish. It's still lingering around. While they don't have food pairings on here, this is definitely a wine that you're going to have to provide oomph to back it up. I want to say things like teriyaki sauce and other jams and balsamic vinegar and dark meats. I mean, lamb would also be fantastic with this, but even if it's strips of beef or flank steaks or a nice flavorful cut of beef would be great here. Lamb would be fantastic. The alcohol on this is, again, that in medium range. I'm going to guess is about 13, maybe 14. Let's see. What does it say? I didn't see it earlier, so I am doing my full-on guess. Where are you? Required information by the law. Oh, 15. Yeah, so this is a big boy. So this is the good news is it doesn't taste that way. It doesn't over-present its alcohol, which is nice. But again, with all that very assertive flavor going on and that high alcohol, You're not going to want to have something with a lot of lingering heat, but you could have lots of stuff with lingering spice. So I would avoid things like, Indian curries and very spicy food. Even Mexican in that habanero, serrano, poblano, bell pepper range might be a little bit too warm, but I'd love a little hint of that in the food to help match up the flavors. Just not something that leaves you with heat, because this is not going to help you cool off your palate. This is going to continue to linger that. But if that's what you're into, hey, we don't kink shame. I would totally. I really want some nice aged hard style cheeses like Parmesan, and I would love some Manchego and those types of cheeses to really help balance this out. Grit aged cheddars would be fantastic. Nice, if you're going to do your charcuterie, make sure you got crackers with weeds and seeds and look like they've been dropped on the barn floor, that kind of thing. Really a fun wine, definitely well presented. To answer those questions, is it well executed? Absolutely. As far as execution of this, by the way, this wine was about $15 a bottle, $14 a bottle. Not that expensive, and it's really punching above its weight by that, I think. I think this is what you should expect in that 15 range. So rock on for that. But is it well executed? Very well executed. Is it on style? That's a hard thing to say. Like I said, there's not a lot of other comparisons to when you say a California Mourvèdre. I would argue that is a good founding of the style. This is similar to Spanish Monastrells that I have tried that are big, although those tend to be a little less mid-ripe in the palate. They're less fleshy. They're a little bit more lean, but other than that, the flavor profiles are definitely the same. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, it's on style. And is it worth the price tag? At $14, or $15, right in that range? Absolutely. You cannot go wrong here. Really exploring and preserving ancient vines is something I'm really excited about. I like everybody knows I'm a Zinfandel fan, and so a lot of the winemakers that I know and really respect that do the work to maintain old ancient vines like this, I think are amazing. And it's a little piece of California's specific wine heritage and history. Something that kind of defies the idea that the New World is really that new, and something you should definitely go and seek and try out. So, all right, good stuff. Everybody else has been pretty quiet, so no questions to answer there. But just to kind of update you on what's upcoming and going on, we've got a couple of dates for the Sleeping Panther here in September. The last of these Sunday shows, 11th and the 25th of the current dates. We're seeing how ticket sales are going there, and we'll hopefully get some ticket sales going. If not, we may have to cancel the shows. But we're really trying to transition to a Thursday night wine and jazz show. That begins on the 29th of September. As soon as tickets are available through the Sleeping Panther, not through me for that event that's there. I am co-hosting with them rather than me hosting, so we're reversing the ticket sales. We're going to be selling through the Sleeping Panther. I'll put a link down in the description. Anyway, the other thing we're doing is Agtoberfest. Details are still forming, but I will get you a ticketing link here ASAP to Agtoberfest at the Horace Hall in the Stockyards of Fort Worth. So that's a 2-day event. Well, the event is all 3 days. Myself and Two Penny Beer will be hosting our tasting booth on the evening of the 23rd, which is Friday, and all day of the 24th, which is Saturday. So you can come out and get a different selection of, I think we're going to try for 4 or 5 different beers and wines for your ticket price. Going to be a heck of a lot of fun. There's going to be great food, live music, the whole deal, and just get to come out, hang out, celebrate Oktoberfest in a particular Fort Worth and Aggie style. So you can come out for me with that. And then, still waiting to hear back on dates, but Reunion Tower in October through December. I've asked for Saturday nights. It is an evening show. So it's a 9 p.m. to probably 10:30 p.m. show, and it won't be a sit-down, listen-to lecture-style show. It'll be similar to the wine and jazz night. I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna have a couple wine stations. I'm gonna let people come in, taste some wine. I'm gonna talk to you, entertain you, host an MC. There'll be music, etc. And you can chill out and enjoy the amazing views of Reunion Tower, 548 feet above the downtown skyline. So I hope you guys can join us for any one of those events coming up soon. Going to be excited to see those. And if you guys have questions, comments, and suggestions for things you'd like to hear about the show, please put them in the comments below. YouTube loves your comments, and so do I. So please do us a favor, comment up there. If you like what you see, share with a wine-loving friend, and hit that like button. subscribe as well. And if you'd like to, support us over on Patreon. Patreon keeps us going and pays for a lot of the equipment, things that we do, and wines that we do here on the show, in addition to other special projects that we're going to be doing up in the near future. So we're going to be doing some personal stuff for my Patreons to work on one-on-one hosted shows. So hope you guys enjoyed. I have enjoyed visiting with you again. I've got to find now something that I've got to match with this food. This is the weird part. Sometimes when I get the show all ready and going, and I'm so excited about the theme and getting ready for it to be the camera time to be done, I completely forget to, match what I'm going to be having with an open bottle for dinner. So maybe I'll just cheat and go to Central Market and buy a charcuterie and get some cheeses going. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, I have been your Wine Shark. Cheers.